Hey, so I just want to take a little bit of time to do a quick deep dive into a concept that we've covered a lot on the podcast. I've worked with a lot of clients on in our one-on-one calls, and that is this idea of the problem-solving fever. This is this really insidious thing that can really sneak into leaders and entrepreneurs, and it can really mess you up because what happens is we as entrepreneurs love to solve problems, right? But we don't always take the time to figure out if we're solving the right problem, if we're putting our energy in the right direction, or if we're just running from fire to fire, right? It's a really difficult thing. It takes a lot of self-awareness and awareness of your business to know what problem you need to be solving next. So this concept, the name there, problem-solving fever, it actually comes from one of my favorite shows growing up, Survivor Man. So those who might have watched some survival TV shows in the early 2000s or so, before the Naked and Afraid days, because that's a big one now. There were two big shows. There was Survivor Man, and there was Man versus Wild. Now, personally, to rehash this debate that I had years and years ago, it's which one was better, right? It's Survivor Man, of course, because Les Stroud filmed himself. Bear Grylls is out there getting a camera crew. It's cheating, all that kind of stuff, right? Joking, of course. But Les Stroud was the one I loved because it was really just him authentically out there in the wilderness by himself, playing his harmonica, doing that whole thing out there, trying to keep himself alive. So first, highly recommend go and watch some Survivor Man. Some great episodes out there. But one of the things that Les Stroud would talk about was that there's really two major killers when you're out in the woods, out in the mountains, right? When you get lost out there. And it's really two. One of them is the one we're going to talk about. Hit the other one really quickly. He talks about cabin fever, getting stir crazy, getting snowed into the mountains, that kind of stuff. Snowed into your campsite, whatever it is there. But the other one he talks about more, and this one's a lot trickier to solve, is he called it bush fever. And bush fever was this situation where you're in, where you get a little bit lost, not super lost, but you're a little bit farther away from camp. You don't quite know where you are. And what happens is you say, okay, well, camp is just over that next hill. You get up, you go over that hill, you go, camp's not here, but that hill looks familiar. It must be over that hill. You keep going, and what happens is you get further and further away from the point you started at. You're probably going in the wrong direction, and you wind up so far away that you get completely lost out there in the woods. People can't come and find you, all that kind of stuff. Survival tips, stay put is a very big thing, right? So you're out there, you can't find the campsite, you start going just over this hill, and you go over this hill, and you keep going, let's say east, right? You go east, 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 east. Well, it turns out that the campsite was right over the hill to your west, or it's right behind you to the south, whatever it is, right? And so it goes through that bush fever. The reason it is so insidious, like I said, is because it feels like you're doing the right thing. You're being active. We love to take action. Taking action is super important. But the problem with taking action all the time is that taking action feels good. And what I mean by that is when we're panicking, when we're, stressed, there's this phrase that I love there's a lot of truth to it, of work beats worry, right? When we're freaking out, it's really easy to go, okay, well, I'm just going to lock in. I'm going to go to work, put my head down, put my nose to the grindstone, and I'm going to go knock all this stuff out. And then things will get better on the other end. I'm just going to work. I'm not going to stress on it, right? I'm going to work so hard that I can beat that worry. So that's what happens. You're out there, you're lost in the mountains, and you go, hey, you know what? I think it's over there. I'm just going to bust my ass. I'm just going to go work really hard to get out there. And it's not over that hill. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep taking action. And as you take action, because that action feels good, we're going through and we go, look, I'm making progress. I'm taking action. So it feels like we're making progress towards our goals. But if you go back to my rough map there, talking about east and west and all of that, well, if you're going east and you're taking action, you're great. You're checking off the to-do list. You want to think about it that way inside of your business. You keep going. It's all going great as far as the to-do list goes. But in the strategic element, when you zoom out, you're going the wrong freaking way. And so it's really important to understand that just because you're taking action, just because you feel that momentum, doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. This is the same thing that happens inside of businesses all the time, where you start running, like I said, fire to fire. You're just putting out fires, trying to help your team, trying to help your customer, all those kind of things there. And it's great. You're making progress on the to-do list. But are you making strategic progress? What does it look like inside of the big picture? Are you going the right direction? And that is the really key element that you have to be able to understand inside of your business. Let's take a second, talk a little bit about, entrepreneur characteristics, right? Characteristics of an entrepreneur. So one is we love solving problems, right? We love helping people, going out there, solving problems for them, making their lives better, right? Making the world a little bit of a better place. That's a really big piece of it. Then there's also the adaptability, right? We always want, whatever problem comes up, we want to find a new way to solve it. We want to find better ways to solve old problems and improve upon old solutions, all those kind of things about the adaptability. So much stuff can go wrong inside of your business. Entrepreneurship, there's no way of understanding what's going to come, the unknown unknowns, right? And so you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to bounce around inside of those things, change your plans, make those adjustments, right? The other piece then is the persistence. Grit is the most important aspect of being a successful entrepreneur, successful in lots of aspects, but it's that passion that keeps you going towards your goal, and that persistence that even when you hit a setback, you're going to keep moving, right? So that persistence is really key. Now let's think about those two right there. As we're going and you're lost in the mountains, right? And you go off and you go over that hill to the east, which is the wrong direction, which we all know now, but let's say we don't know, right? Go off to the east, right? And you get over that hill and you go, look, like, this is wrong, but I'm going to adapt. I'm going to find a way to push myself through the situation. And you might try to map it off the sun and figure out which direction you're going and do other stuff there, right? All sorts of different ways that you could adapt to what you're doing. But then also there's that persistence where it's like, look, I gotta keep pushing. I know I can do it if I just keep pushing. This happens to entrepreneurs all the time. If I just keep pushing, the sales are gonna come. The people are gonna find out. If I just keep pushing, eventually I know it'll come. And that belief is powerful. It matters. Do not get rid of that belief. That belief is very, very important to your success as an entrepreneur. But that being said, you have to recognize when the time is to stop, when you don't need to be so persistent, when you need to get a little bit more creative and find another way to attack that problem set, adapt, right? And so it's really important to understand why we as entrepreneurs fall into this kind of trap. And it's not just leaders inside the business; it's people in their own life too. We do this all the time with our own life, of running from problem to problem instead of actually taking the time to find the right problem that we need to solve, right? So it's really important to understand those different aspects there. The other example that always comes to mind for me as I think about this, and I always tell the story to my clients, is about hunting pronghorn up in Wyoming. So if you've ever been up into Wyoming, it is a beautiful state full of rolling hills, just over and over and over again. And up there in Wyoming, it's pronghorn country. You got a whole lot of pronghorn out there. Now, I didn't Google the number out before this. I think they can run something along the lines of 55 miles an hour, if I got that right off the top of my head. Fastest land animal in North America. Beautiful, beautiful creatures. What they do when you're out there in those hills is you'll see them and you go, because it's relatively flat. If you're on top of the hill, you can see very far, right? So you go, oh, the pronghorn right over there. Well, let's go drop down to this draw here. We're going to hike our way around a couple miles, pop up, and we should be right on top of them. Well, it happens just about every time when you're out there in Wyoming. You go through and you march that 2-3 miles through those draws, hiding in the hills, that nice little low walk, trying to keep hidden from the pronghorn. Well, you pop up and they're gone. Well, they can run 55 miles an hour. You were just hiking for 30 minutes. They could be anywhere. But do you know what you tell yourself every single time? Probably just over the next hill. There's no way they just completely ran away and they're miles and miles away. They probably might have seen us coming. They went over one hill. Or they just happened to wander over one hill. Okay, so if they're over that hill, then what do? Well, if the pronghorn over that hill, my goal is to go get a pronghorn, then guess what? I'm going to go over that hill. What happens though? You get over that hill, just like the bush fever. You get over, you go, shoot, the pronghorn aren't here. They got to be over the next hill, though, right? And so you go, okay, go over the next hill. And sure enough, you keep going, and you can do that all day. There's a lot of hills out there in Wyoming, like I said. You could do that all freaking day where you keep telling yourself, the pronghorn's over the next hill, it's over the next hill, it's over the next hill. Problem is, if they're gone, then you're just lying to yourself. You're telling yourself, look, I think the solution is right there. I see the problem set. There's no pronghorn here. I think the solution, the pronghorn, is right over that hill. So I'm going to take action. I'm going to go over that hill. Again, taking action. Taking action feels good. I'm making progress. I'm going over the hill. I hiked it. I made it, right? You get over it and it's not there. Well, you can do it again. And you keep going. And now in this case, it's not necessarily a survival issue. But you are getting further and further out, and you're not getting closer to your strategic goal. So that's the really important piece to understand there. And the question is, and we joke about this, Otis and I, we joke about this a bunch of the podcast, it's like, hey, Dad, the pronghorn is always over the next hill. And the reason we joke about that is not because it literally is, but because define where the next hill is. Well, it's always the next one, right? So as soon as you go over one hill, well, the pronghorn's over the next hill, and it pushes it one and keeps going. It's unanswerable. It's turtles all the way down, to put it that way, right? So because the pronghorn's over the next hill, you could keep telling yourself and selling that idea to yourself that you need to go solve that problem, get up that hill, get up that hill, get up that hill, right? So taking this back into the business, actually, I want to stay in the hunting space for a second before we go back into business. So the issue there is not your ability to get over the hill, your ability to solve that problem. It's whether, strategically speaking, you are doing the right thing. Are you moving towards your strategic goals, right? Are the pronghorn really there, or are they gone? You need to go back to the truck, drive to a new area, right? So if you don't know the outcome, you don't know if the pronghorn is over that next hill. Here's the funny thing: we're down in those hills too. If they're bedded down, you can be on top of the hill and you'd be looking right over them. You don't even see them, right? They're hard to see, right? So if you don't know the outcome that you're looking for, if you don't know the probability of that outcome, might be a better way to put it, then as you're going, you might say, well, if the pronghorn's here, then I'm going to keep going, right? So if we don't know that outcome, what do we know? Because again, if the pronghorn's there, then yeah, hike that hill. Of course, do it. Hey, if that next problem that you're trying to solve inside of your business, if that's the thing that busts things wide open and makes you a multimillionaire, awesome. Go do that thing. That's great. But if you don't know the outcome, you don't know how likely it is, maybe, then you have to step back and go, okay, what do I know? So you pick yourself out of those rolling hills in Wyoming. Well, one thing I know is my capacity. I just hiked 3 miles from the truck, then hopped over a couple of these hills, now I'm another mile or so. I'm looking at a 5+ mile hike back. Even if I get a pronghorn, that's a long hike with a pronghorn on my back, right? So I know my capacity might be at its limits, right? I know where that is. Same kind of thing goes inside your business. If you are looking at it, you're like, hey, this thing might be great, but I'm busy with the whirlwind. I'm busy with my day-to-day operations. Well, then, hey, it might be time for you to stay with your day-to-day operations. You might need to keep that going because you can't spare that extra capacity to go into this new thing, right? So that's one piece there. The other is the risk, and this kind of ties back to probability, risk, probability, kind of same. And it's just, hey, what am I missing out on? What's my opportunity cost of going over this next hill, trying to solve that other problem? And then number 2, what is the probability that this problem is actually going to, the solution rather to this problem is actually going to move me forward and actually move the business forward? What is the probability that the pronghorn are actually over that next hill? Look, I couldn't tell you how many hills there are in Wyoming, but I could tell you the chance of them being over any one hill is probably really freaking low. Okay? And same thing goes inside the business. There's a lot of different problems you have to solve inside of your business, a lot of different work that has to be done. Any one of those things could be the thing that breaks it wide open, but the probability is low. And so you need to be honest with yourself about that as well. And then think about the commitment, going back to capacity, right? How much time and energy do I need to commit to this? Can I outsource it to someone else on my team? Can I outsource those day-to-day operations to someone else so I can go solve these kind of problems? You start to analyze it like that, and now you're looking at all of these variables that are inside of your control, and you actually know what you're looking at. So now, whether or not we know whether the pronghorn's over that hill or not, we can honestly look at ourselves and say, but have I hiked too far? When we go over one hill, yeah, it's great. 2 hills, yeah, it's great. I might go to the third and be like, we're getting really far away from the truck. It's time to just head back, cut our losses, right? Same kind of thing inside the business. Yeah, I can run around trying to do all different things, getting on sales calls, go network and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, but if those things aren't moving us forward and I'm hurting my capacity and there's a risk to that with the opportunity cost of the other things I could be working on, then guess what? I probably shouldn't go pursue that opportunity, right? And this is, at a really key level, this is just shiny object. Right? It's avoiding that shiny object syndrome, because it just like that next idea inside the business is the great one. It's the one that's going to make you that millionaire and all those kind of things. Pronghorn's always over the next hill. Next business idea is the one that's going to make it, right? It's really, really easy to lie to yourself about that. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be persistent and you shouldn't keep pushing for those kind of things, but it means you have to be smart about it. Don't burn yourself out. Don't get lost in the mountains. Don't get so far away from the truck that even if you do get a pronghorn, you can't carry it back, right? You have to be able to understand those different things. So thinking about it from the entrepreneur perspective, we love helping people. We love solving problems. So if someone on my team is having a problem, I'm going to drop everything to go help them. I'm going to drop everything to go coach a client, to go help them, because I love helping people. It's my favorite thing. It's my purpose, right? My purpose is to help people. That's why I do what I do. Whether it's coaching rugby, coaching entrepreneurs, whatever it is, I love this stuff. And so naturally, I'm going to go want to solve that next problem. And then thinking about the persistence of, look, there's a certain point where that sunk cost fallacy is really real, right? Really real. That it's real, because as you go and you go, look, I've hiked so far. I'm so far. The problem must be over that next hill. I've worked so hard to get all the way out here. That doesn't mean that your success is right around the corner. The work that you've put in, the money you've put into your business does not mean that it's just going to happen. You might be 3 years away from that success. So you have to have this honest conversation with yourself of, look, is there some cost here? Do I need to keep persisting through this? And when you take the time to go through that analysis, to think about your opportunity cost, think about your capacity, think about the commitment of time to this, think about the risk, the likelihood of success, thinking about the probability, all those different pieces, right? When you take the time to analyze those, now you have a much more realistic estimation of the problem set. And so you're not going to just run from problem to problem. Because here's the really big key, going back to Les Stroud, Survivor Man, bush fever. Is there really an answer to what he was talking about? Is like in my example, I talked about it's like, well, we went east, we should have gone west. Well, yeah, there's your answer there. But in reality, if you don't know where your campsite is, there's not an answer. The answer is not doing anything. And sometimes that's how it goes in the business. There's all these things happening, all these shiny objects, and you might need to go, look, those all sound great. I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to keep working on this. And being able to do that means that you are going to get a better outcome, right? Because you're doing that analysis. That's what it really comes down to. When he talks about waiting there, that's really, yeah, you could do the analysis. You might be able to go, oh, it is actually over that hill to the west, or I'll go up that hill, might be able to see it, and I'll drop back down and kind of stay more local to my to where I am and those kind of things there, right? But what it really comes down to when we break that down in the survival element is just an analysis. Same thing inside the business. Somebody calls you up and says, oh my God, the sky is falling. Is the sky really falling? What am I going to miss out on when I go help you deal with the sky falling or not falling? Going through that analysis process is what's going to help you to choose the right direction to go, to choose whether or not the problem corner over that next hill and you want to go over that hill after, right? You're not always going to know what the outcome looks like, but you can take the time to analyze the things that you do know. Again, the capacity, the risk, commitment, probability, all those different things there. When you take the time to analyze those, it doesn't tell you whether or not the pronghorn is over that next hill, but it tells you whether you have the capacity, whether you should go over that hill, just in case the pronghorn is there. Same kind of thing in the business. Should I put my energy into this, or should I put my energy elsewhere? That's what it really comes down to. So taking the time to analyze your situation, have the self-awareness of your own capacity to know whether or not you need to go pursue that next solution, right? And that is the key to understanding problem-solving fever. Don't get caught problem-solving fever. Don't get caught chasing. We talk about chasing rabbits all the time on the Cam and Otis show, or 10X your team. But don't get caught running from fire to fire because it's so good to put out fires because people are happy when you help them, right? That doesn't mean you're doing the right things. You can help them more by being more strategic, all right? Don't get lost on the tactical level. You need to zoom out and see the strategic picture. And that is the key to beating problem-solving fever. Don't get lost in the mountains. Don't go over those next hills in Wyoming over and over again thinking the pronghorn's going to be there. You don't know if it's going to be there. So take some time, analyze what's going on in your own life, in your business, and decide if you have the capacity to go after that risk, because it is a risk. At the end of the day, going to solve one problem over another is a risk. And the key to success, key to long-term success really as an entrepreneur, is making sure you're trying to pick those right problems as best you can. And that takes self-awareness and analysis. So I hope this really helps you. The problem-solving fever is this really insidious thing that can mess up a lot of people in their business, and they feel like they're doing so well, and they're busy, and they'll say, "I'm good busy. I'm doing so much. I'm helping so many people," and then they go out of business because they were missing the problem they really need to be solving. So don't fall into that trap. Don't think that the pronghorn's always over the next hill, even though it is. But it's key to understand. Take the time to do the analysis. Find the right problem to solve. Don't just go running from problem to problem. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to either work with me and Otis on some of this leadership development, sign up for one of our programs, or just check out more free videos, go to 10xyourteam.net, find the right leadership tool for you. And we got a lot of great stuff up there in the DIY vein, videos like this out there for free just to help you become a great leader, help you develop leaders inside of your team. We got the Green Beret Leadership Program to build out leaders inside of your team and group coaching. Got the CEO Jumpstart where I'm working one-on-one with solopreneurs to build a foundation of self-leadership so they can do these things that we're talking about and not run from problem to problem and become a more effective leader so they can lead themselves and be an effective CEO so they don't have to fire themselves down the road. And then we also do some fractional COO services. So we got a lot of great resources out there. Wherever you are at in your business or in your life, go to 10xyourteam.net and find the right leadership development tool for you and your team.